about abortion, which is, very dangerous because obviously a lot of them were not legal. I mean, where I live here in Manhattan, there was a clinic across the street from me where abortions were performed, and I always used to see women driving up in old battered cars, coming from other states to go and get this fundamental service. I think one of the things we don't understand is how crucial that issue has been uh, throughout the history, at least history as we know it. For instance, when Hitler was elected, and he was indeed elected, the very first thing he did the next day was to order the closing of all clinics and declaring abortion a crime against the state. So, for dictatorships, the control of women's bodies to determine, racial balance, military, for many reasons, has always been fundamental. But we don't, at least in my country, often get this taught in government courses.
So I suppose when you look at the context within which this has happened, it's happened under Joe Biden. I know that it's how the Supreme Court is formed, and there's a whole story to that. But do you feel this is going to be a permanent situation, or your point is women will take control where they need to anyway?
Yes, no, it's definitely true, before and after Roe v. Wade, that women are going to make this decision anyway. But the question is in how much safety and with how much support.
How do you think this has happened? For those who view this as a regression, what has happened? What has changed for this to go backwards, as some would see it, in the women's movement? And is some of that, to be laid at the feet of the movement? Was there something that the women's movement missed, or a moment here?
I don't think there was a moment, but perhaps we were so obviously living the logic of, if we don't have control and decision-making power over our own bodies, we are not living in a democracy. So this we always understood, but we may have underestimated the power of religions and the power of racism. Remember that this country is now on the verge of becoming a majority people of color country. The first generation of babies, or majority babies of color, has already been born. Now, this seems a great thing. I mean, we're going to have better relationships with other countries, look more like the world, better food, I don't know, but it is not perceived by those who are extremely race conscious as anything except a big danger.
You've always talked about intersectionality within feminism, the importance of it, working closely with black feminists, with women of colour, and yes, at the same time, we're in an era of people cancelling each other, censoring each other if they don't agree with each other, and that happens within movements where there is a greater goal, and within the women's movement itself. What have you learned through your decades of going out, being on the road, going to campuses, being where there's hot debates about how to work together when you don't agree?
Well, it depends on what we don't agree on, because I'm not going to work together with somebody who doesn't think that reproductive freedom is a basic human right, like freedom of speech.
But I say, if I was to give, just then to be more specific, let's say you're in the women's movement together with another woman, and you look at the Middle East right now, and you have completely different views, but you still very much agree on reproductive freedom, but you're finding the other person's take on that particular conflict egregious to your own take. And then, as I have heard, from women in this position, they simply can't talk to each other anymore. And I just wondered, from your long time in this fight, how you would advise people to navigate political differences and different views, not about the issue you maybe came together on.
Well, obviously we should and can move forward on what we agree on, and agree to disagree on something else. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is the way we have always moved forward. And we have a huge majority anyway on this simple idea that we get to make decisions over our own physical selves. So if we disagree on what would be a foreign policy issue, that is a subject for voting differently, but it doesn't prevent us from working together.
What do you think the women's movement should be focusing on now?
Anything they damn well please. That's what I think. No, I mean, it depends what they're experiencing, where they are. It could be reproductive issues, but it also could be age, because women are still more penalized for aging than men in general are. It could be being in a racial ghetto and being deprived of, we don't learn from sameness, we learn from difference. So it's a deprivation not to be able to be together with people who are different from us.
Just I've talked about women to women there, but our relationships with men. I know you thought about that for many years as well, and how we work together. You mentioned there about men raising children and that being important, but we do see the appeal for some men of men's rights activists, divisive figures, such as, for instance, online, the self-proclaimed misogynist influencer Andrew Tate. These individuals are gaining traction with some men, and some would wonder why, when we are as advanced as we have ever been.
Well, I think it's because we are as advanced, because they feel that they're losing or about to lose. Because the country supports equality in general, and they're down to 1/3, and they feel threatened, and that's why they say things like, "You will not replace us."
Does that worry you? Is that a concern?
Well, of course it worries me, but I think we're going to win in a good sense. That is, return power to the individual.
In an essay published in Time magazine, What Would It Be Like If Women Win, in 1970, you envisioned a future that would exist of a variety of alternative lifestyles, different makeup of families, the right for women to remain single without ridicule. How satisfied are you that at least some of that seems to have come true in some parts of the world?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has. I mean, being able to remain single without ridicule is something I can testify to. In the New York Times, I used to be Miss Steinem of Ms. Magazine, because they had to identify women by their marital status, Miss or Mrs., when they did not do that for men. All right, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yes, I have to bring up one of my personal favorites of yours, with your many essays, your many pieces of writing over the years, is a semi-satirical essay titled "If Men Could Menstruate." And there's just these wonderful lines in it. They'd be standing on the street corner shouting, "I'm a 3-pad kind of guy." These great images you came up with. And it just really hit home. Whenever I've shared that with a man, and I have shared it with many men, they just have a smile because they know it's true, Gloria.
Yes, I think just exchanging situations is very, very helpful and illuminating.
It's also just thinking back to the power that people do or do not have. And I do have to ask you this with the opportunity of talking to you. What is your read on why America still has not had a female president? What will it take?
It's outrageous. It is, I can't, it's so angering. Obviously, Hillary Clinton should have been president, all the way back to Victoria Woodhull, who was, I believe, the first woman who actually ran for the presidency, because we have cut our talent in half, and we are behind other democracies in the world in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, you still say, when you say something maddening or annoyed, I know a chuckle in your voice. I mean, is that part of the secret to not getting bitter, to having a life of campaigning, to just keep going, to try and have some levity as you do it?
Yes, and also it's a community. You know, we gather together for campaigns, for help with each other's work, whatever it is. We are communal animals. We need each other, and a movement is a glorious way of becoming more communal.
How do you have any personal practice or habits that has stopped you from being burned out, kept you not from, from not being bitter, kept your energy up?
Yes, well, they're my friends, and then I happen to have a big living room that's centrally located. So just yesterday, I had, like, I don't know, 20 people in a talking circle, which is what Native Americans call it, right? So you sit in a circle, and everybody gets a chance to speak, and everybody gets a chance to learn from them. Actually, traditionally, you have a talking stick which you pass around the circle, and while you have it in your hand, you're able to talk, and it's great.
I love that idea. Convening in the living room. Maybe I should get a stick in the studio. It would be quite helpful sometimes to not to hit or use. I mean the talking.
No, just to, when you have it, you get to talk,
Yeah.
and then you pass it.
Maybe the people who won't be would probably like to give me that, so I know when to shush as well. It's wonderful to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. We all wish you happy 90th, and all the best for more talking circles.
It's shocking, I find. I don't know how I got, but I'm loving it. Yes.
I love that she says it's shocking to be at 90. Gloria Steinem there, and talking sticks. Good idea, talking circles, perhaps you do that. Messages coming in about what hasn't been achieved, what should be for women. No man, just linking to that, should have any say. One of our listener believes here, and I'm sure there'll be other views too, action or authority. No man should have that on the matter of abortion. Another one here about equality in the workplace, specifically in finance. I worked in finance for the last 24 years, and I'm saddened to say I don't think much has changed. Several women have been hired into senior roles, myself included, but ultimately the treatment we receive, the misogyny we deal with, continues. I speak to young girls looking at careers in finance, and I'm at a loss how to advise them to proceed with so much hope in their eyes. They ask me, things have changed since your day, haven't they? And all I want to tell them to do is run a mile in the other direction. No name on that, but Christine's written in to say domestic abuse should be taken much more seriously by all concerned. And so those messages continue, and I should say many coming in for Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe too, and what she was able to share in our conversation there. But my next guest has one of those voices you don't forget, and she's using it both on and off her singing mic to talk about women's lives and their sometimes very difficult experiences of the music industry. I'm talking about Rebecca Ferguson, who, as a 23-year-old single mother from Liverpool training to be a legal secretary, shot to fame when she stepped onto that mighty X Factor stage and gave an audition that would change her life. She has since carved her own creative path with her soulful and stunning music. From her album Lady Sings the Blues through to her latest Heaven Part 2, Rebecca has been lauded by critics, with The Telegraph declaring her in the same league as Aretha Franklin. Now, before I get to talk to Rebecca, I am very thrilled. I should also say she's here on my final programme. She's going to sing for us all, which is an enormous treat, and it's a fabulous one. It was her debut track, Nothing's Real But Love, and she's accompanied on the piano by Nathan Johnson and Wendy Harriott on backing vocals. Rebecca, I'll let you take it away.
I'm just going to clean your throat really quickly if that's okay.
You can clear your throat. It's live radio. You've got to do what you've got to do. You clear your throat, but I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Thanks.
companies, but it's because local authorities have had this huge austerity program, and obviously social services comes more important than bus services, and so they've had to put their money into that. And so Labour, if they get into government, let's hope they do, unless they put serious money into running buses, then it's not going to make any difference. But interestingly,
well, I think they're planning to. I mean, they can't do
good.
250 million more journeys per year without spending some money. At the moment, they say it won't require extra Treasury funding, so we're in the weeds again, aren't we?
But I hope they don't take, as you've been hinting at, or saying, the profits from the profitable companies and the profitable bus routes. I spent my career running Brighton and Hove Bus Company, and in 20 years we doubled the number of passengers travelling in that city by bus, doubled the number, such that it's now, outside of London, it's the city with the greatest bus use. So we're talking big numbers, and we did that by reinvesting the profits into even more frequent bus routes. So instead of a bus running every 10 minutes, it would run every 7.5 minutes or every 5 minutes. So you have your conveyor belt London style.
But how does that help? How does that help people who are isolated?
Because what it does is release the local authorities to put the limited money they've got into routes that are in the rural areas.
This is fascinating politics, isn't it? Because this is a sort of culture clash, and that you say let the private sector pursue profit through provision of good service as much as possible, and then let the public sector take up the unprofitable areas. It's a bit like the conversation we had about NHS versus private sector, and the private sector cherry picking all the easy profitable bits.
Well, I like to liken it, and the analogy I would give would be to libraries. You wouldn't expect Waterstones to cross-subsidise libraries, would you?
You might be talking to the wrong champagne socialist here. No, because you can stay for longer than that. I mean, objective. I mean, from a much further away perspective, Waterstones does subsidise libraries. All people paying tax subsidise libraries. Yeah, no, precisely. So indeed the private bus company. So you mean a more direct relationship?
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't even do that. I'd say that you can only run the services you're running that are making money if you also run just as efficiently and just as well, but less profitably, those 5 services over there as well. And it would be a bit like the train franchises, where you could bid according to how profitable you thought it was going to be, but you would be required, it would be conditional that you provided the less popular services, the unprofitable services as well. Why would that be a problem?
Well, that indeed is what's happening in Manchester now with Andy Burnham, isn't it? He's taken back all of the routes and he's divvying them up into franchise bits that are going to companies. It's what's happened in London throughout the time, but the time will tell whether that is successful. I would point to other examples like Brighton, Oxford, Nottingham, places in Norfolk, where they've got fantastic services with no call for public funding. And that's got to be a good thing if you can provide a good service. And the example I was going to give you is there's a small family-run bus company in Thetford in Norfolk, which in December started to put a brand new bus route on between Thetford, Attleborough and Norwich, running initially 4 or 5 times a day.
Why don't they hire you?
Completely at their commercial risk, and it's been so successful. Next weekend they're extending it, so there'll be even more journeys. Now you wouldn't get that if a local authority or it was nationalised. I promise you, because I worked in the industry.
Why not? In a sentence, why wouldn't you get that if it's profitable?
Because in the nationalised sector, and I worked in for the National Bus Company, that's how I started my career, every year the government gave us less money than we had the previous year. We were part of the government.
So you're not going to do a suck it and see route where you sort of think, well, open that up and see if it works. Does it go through Wyndham?
Actually avoids Wyndham to make a fast journey from Attleborough into Norwich, and that's why it's been successful, because First Bus do a
thing covered. Could you tell me now, if I said how do I get from Land's End to John O'Groats by bus, could you almost do it?
Well, almost, but I actually did it with a great friend of mine, Jeff Marshall. We went by train as well. We tutored. We got the bus to Penzance, then the train, and then we got the...
Before you go, just talk me through that 112 again.
The 112?
Yeah.
Well, it goes from that Tavistock.
As much progress as I would have liked.
You made no progress. 6 or 7 weeks ago, made a very powerful speech on the policing of demonstrations. Do you think the police have heeded your call?
I expect the police to make sure that those who behave in a way which is not in accordance with our values are dealt with swiftly.
You're quoting about protecting shop workers. When are we actually going to get realistic?
It's not acceptable. There's going to be a new offence for assaulting a shop worker. We're going to make sure that we tag prolific offenders.
Listen and watch on Global Player, the official LBC app.
Next election, there's going to be one of two people Prime Minister at the end of it, me or Keir Starmer.
This is LBC.
This is what award-winning customer service sounds like from real Octopus Energy calls.
Yeah, you know where I am if you need anything in the future. You've been brilliant. You've all been brilliant.
You know, it's what electricity companies should be. There's nowhere in the world that would change my supplier.
You've been brilliant, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you for talking to me. It's been very good with it, you know. Thank you so much to you and Octopus.
Octopus Energy, outstanding service at fair prices.
Hi all.